Thought I'd get on really quick and let anyone who's following my videos know that my husband and I have made it home safe and sound. It was a long flight. I think it was we were in transit for at least 24 hours or so, but things went really well. It was very comfortable this time around. On the trip up, it was not as comfortable because I had my fistula, and now there is no more fistula, although there is a bit of a wound that needs attention to heal. So things went really well that way, other than the jet lag, jet lag, it can be pretty brutal. I think there's now a 9.5 hour time difference between Pune and where I live. So, of course, we're going through the whole thing again where our bodies have gone crazy and we want to eat, but then when we try to eat, we feel a little nauseous or we can't sleep or we're getting up way too early. But all that aside, everything's gone super, super awesome. I can't say enough about this wonderful treatment. One thing that I was worried about before hopping on my plane was that with international flights, depending on the country that you're flying through, custom laws can be pretty strict. I think the strictest that I ever encountered were in the United States, to be honest. We went from Delhi to Frankfurt, layover, then Frankfurt to Montreal, layover, and then Montreal to home. So it wasn't too bad, but the standard rules did apply, and that would be if you have more than 100 milliliters of liquid, you have to dump it, leave it, or they're not going to let you on the plane. I was a little nervous because aside from maintaining my vegetarian diet and no spicy foods and no cheese, which I learned that all this whole time I could have had ice cream, my doctor never restricted me from that. What? All the ice cream I could have eaten while I was in Pune? Anyway, aside from that, one of the things that I have to do is to keep the wound very, very clean, of course, with iodine, with cotton in the anal area, and with putting a salve up in the area. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't get stopped at customs, told to leave my bottle of iodine behind, or anything like that. So I thought long and hard about how am I going to get through customs, but still have my equipment to clean up my area. What I did was I took balls of cotton, and I over-soaked them with iodine because I was worried that maybe there'd be some evaporation. I don't think I needed to soak them with as much iodine as I did, so if anyone chooses to follow my footsteps, maybe don't soak them as much as I did. If how much it soaked, was soaked through shows up in the picture, I'm not sure if it will. Took 3 balls of cotton just to make sure that I had enough. I over-soaked them in iodine because I was worried that some of the iodine might evaporate. And I took those balls of cotton soaked in iodine and I put them into a Ziploc baggie. And I just put that into my carry-on. I forgot to take my portable bidet, which was, at first I was a little nervous because I did have a BM on the way back home, but there was really nothing to clean up. That's awesome. That's the first time that's happened since this whole fistula nightmare started. There was a little bit of discharge after I have bowel movements, but there really wasn't much to clean up after all. So I need not have worried about taking my portable bidet, but I did need my cotton balls. I wanted to make sure that I stuck strictly to the regime that the doctor had set out, clean the area twice a day. Aside from putting the cotton balls in the Ziploc baggie, I also took some of the salve that the doctor had prescribed for me, and I put that. I took a little bit from the big container and I put it into a smaller container. So it was just a really tiny amount of salve, and I knew it would be a small enough amount that it wouldn't really make customs officials nervous if they happened to go through my bag and saw that or anything like that. So if anybody has to travel internationally from India to wherever you're living, and your doctor has given you aftercare instructions, or if you're considering having Kshar Sutra and you're just thinking about different things that you need to prepare for, one of the things you might want to consider, depending on which doctor you go with, is that you might need to do aftercare once you're home and, of course, in transit. For me, 24 hours was too long to not do those aftercare instructions that the doctor had set out, especially when I had the bowel movement in transit. I wanted to make sure that area was clean and stick to the letter to what he said. And obviously, after everything I've gone through, I'm very nervous about anything going wrong. So it depends. Maybe some people would be comfortable with just leaving it for 24 hours if they have to travel that far, have to be that long in transit, and they don't want to do aftercare instructions. I wouldn't recommend that. I think you should listen to your doctor. Or maybe if you're traveling to a different country, but you don't live as far away as I did, you don't need to worry about that. But if you do, I would recommend that you make sure to take Ziploc baggies, cotton, and any small empty containers. Maybe you can get them from Walmart or a dollar store or a cheap store. And that's just a way to transport any aftercare cleanup supplies that you might need on the way back home and not worry about being flagged by customs, being hauled off somewhere to get a random inspection because you took some liquid on that they weren't quite sure what it was. Because, of course, if you happen to get searched by customs or they are triggered by, well, what is this liquid? And I'm saying what is this liquid because I had considered taking the iodine and putting it in a smaller container, but that would make it some mystery liquid. And nobody wants customs to see any mystery liquid on them. That's for sure. Nobody needs that type of drama in their life. So you want, of course, your flight to go as smoothly as possible. You want to get through whatever customs you need to get through as quickly as possible so you can catch whatever connecting flight and move on. And everybody knows that if you get stopped at customs, you might very well miss your next flight depending on how long they take. So that's just something to consider if anybody wants to follow in those particular footsteps. It worked out well for me. My customs officers, they of course scanned my bags and then searched my bags and asked if I had any milliliters of liquid, and I put the milliliters of liquid, like if I had hand sanitizer or something like that, I put that in a clear plastic baggie for them, and they had absolutely no problems for me with the cotton balls soaked in iodine or with the salve that I put into a different container. I'm not sure how that will happen for anybody else. Maybe it could be that if you get caught by customs, then they might see this stuff. If you happen to follow in my footsteps, take my suggestions, and maybe they might have an issue with that. I'm not sure. But it's just something to consider. The thing that you could do is if you're trying to take liquid on the plane with you back home, you might want to just consider getting a smaller bottle of iodine or whatever, a smaller bottle of liquid, whichever type of liquid your doctor recommends to clean up if they've recommended something. But it seems to me that most international flights will say 100 milliliters of liquid or less. So you might want to consider getting bottles smaller than 100 milliliters. But of course, as I always say over and over again, do your own research. So make sure before you hop your flights to know what the expectations are and the rules are before you get your flights. So anyway, all that aside, it was a really, really great flight. Other than being horrifically jet-lagged, I'm doing awesome. I will say, TMI alert, here we go again. I will say that, of course, now the area is a wound. It's no longer a fistula. That's gone. The area is still kind of a wound that's healing over and it needs attention. And it is difficult to hold on to my farts. I know I'm saying that because I know some people want to know, well, what happened? Let me know everything. Yeah, I will. They're still coming out of my bum, which is awesome. Every time that happens, I smile. Oh, I'm going right in there, aren't I? But they're really, really difficult to hold in, and they just kind of slip out. And so my husband's been a little bit embarrassed to go out with me right now. I'm not sure how things will progress as the area heals up and then just is done with its healing process. Of course, I'll let everybody know how that goes because people do want to know the answers to those questions if they've had a fistula or if they've had any sort of procedure in that area or if they're going through Kshar Sutra. But bowel movements are very comfortable, no issues with incontinence to stool whatsoever. It's just that hanging on to the wind aspect. There really is no hanging on to it at this point in time. I think it's hilarious. Somebody else might find it a bit embarrassing, but that's something to consider. For me, I really honestly don't care. The fistula's dead, it's gone, and if that means that it's a little harder to hang on to farts, even if it was for the rest of my life, I wouldn't care. I heard a question in one of my forums from a person wanting to know about stool leaking from the fistula area when a person's undergoing Kshar Sutra treatment. For me, unfortunately, stool leaked right up until the day before my last appointment to get my thread removed. It was awful. At that point, during my last appointment, my doctor said he didn't anticipate any more stool locking, and I was skeptical, but once the thread was removed, he was right. There was no more stool coming out of the area. There's still discharge, but it's not stool leaking like it used to be. And the discharge has trickled off, and pretty much there's not a heck of a whole lot left anymore. So I just thought I'd include that in case anybody's interested in knowing about that, if they're considering Kshar Sutra, going through it, and wondering if they had an obnoxious fistula like mine, if they're wondering, like, going through Kshar Sutra, why is my fistula still leaking stool? When will it stop? It could be that for you, like for me, it might leak stool right up until the string is taken out, and then afterwards things will start to really, things, meaning tissue, will really start to fill in the area. And then hopefully you'll be on your way to not having to deal with that problem anymore. I feel kind of silly and maybe a little cliche, but I feel like I've kind of got a new lease on life with just being able to go to the washroom, have a bowel movement, clean up myself, and then go on about my day. I haven't been able to do that in about a year. And it's one of those things where if you've just never had issues with something gone wrong with your body, whatever part it might be, you take it for granted. But when it goes wrong, you really realize how important that particular body part is. I don't think I will ever take my rectum for granted again. I don't care if people find it to be a taboo area. For me, mine is finally working the way it should be, and I'm just so happy. But it's just awesome to be able to engage in a regular, normal bodily function like passing stool, and then that's it. Because before, as I said in one of my videos, I might have to be cleaning up stool from that area for the next anywhere between, it might not drain at all one day, and then the next day it might drain for the full 24 hours, and that would be me in the bathroom every hour on the hour, cleaning. It's just absolutely incredible now that I'm just able to go about my day and not have to worry about it. So that's one thing I'm definitely grateful for.